Good morning, guys. So in this video, I want to go over what we did in the last class. For those of us that missed it, and for persons that weren't able to really, you know, get a full scope of what was being done. So prior to the last class, this was what we had on the project. A to-dos application with a standard to-dos, the tags, and we manually added our group items, which is the activity. We manually added it: the wash, the dishes, cook, mow the lawn, etc. We manually added it ourselves, but that wasn't the goal of the project. The goal of the project was to be able to impute items here ourselves. Let's say item 20. We click confirm, and it adds it to the list itself. And even much more, the activity list should not be manually typed by ourselves. Like, it should be loaded from maybe a kind of database, but because we're not working on a database at the moment, because we haven't covered it yet, that's why we resolved to okay, let's use an array for a start. Let's just have an array inside of our JavaScript file, and use that array for a start. Then as time goes on, we can come back to the project and couple it with a backend service. So this is what we have, and if you don't have the code, you can as well go to the GitHub page to have to get the copy of what we have at the moment. So moving on, what we did in the last class was how we can manipulate these things, get the content from here, the inputs right here, as well as how to dynamically update this activity list. So that is what so I'll be closing this. So this is more of like an explanation of what is happening. So as you can see now, this is the updated file. Let me load that here. Alright, so this is the updated file as of last class. And how did we get here? So what we did was that inside of our activity list group here, we decided to remove everything inside. Okay, compared to the previous class, we decided to remove everything so that we by using our JavaScript, we update it from the JavaScript file. All right, and we give it an ID of activity list. Can you see it here? We give it an ID of activity list. So right here, this ID is an attribute of the URL tag of the list tag. All right, so this ID allows us to identify it. Okay, and how did we come about that? So we created our list of items right here inside the JavaScript file, which is an array, an array that contains the objects, the various objects. So we have the title of the activity, and if the activity is finished or not. So we have wash the dishes, cook, mow the lawn, finish up my assignments, etc. So now what we did here on line 72 was that we queried using the ID. If we go back to our HTML file, you remember that the ID of this particular list group is activity list. So inside of our JavaScript file now, we queried that particular Okay, let me comment this out so that I will show you how it works. Okay, let's comment this out for a while. So let's console.log activity lists parent element. All right, if we were to save that and check our browser's console right here, as you can see, it gives us this lists group right here with the ID activity list and the class of list group. All right, so this particular element here is what we are targeting. All right, that is what we are targeting. Now, moving on, we decided to create a for loop, okay, to go through each of the items inside of the activity list. So this for loop, we know how it works, yeah, like it iterates through this particular activity list array. Okay, because this is an array as well, but I'm using the word array and list interchangeably now. So the for loop goes through each item in this array. All right, now as it goes through, it begins to create, because you can see now that we've commented out the old JavaScript remaining here. We just have this old line 72 active here, that nothing is showing under my activity list in the window here. We have nothing showing there. All right, so and that is where all of this come in, and I'll be explaining it line by line from here. So we decided to create a function. Let's uncomment this. All right, so we decided to create a function that's on line 74, and this function does something to the activity list, which is the parent element in this context, where every of the item inside of the list group lies. So we did something here. We are using the inner HTML, okay, to set the entire tag children inside of the list group to an empty one, okay, to allow us for our own manipulation each time we want to like update the list. All right, so now using this our for each, which I've explained before. If you still have a difficult time with the for each, please check the previous videos as well. I have another video on the for each map on YouTube, so I also had the link to this particular video as well, so that you can go over it again. All right, so now we are looping through this entire array here. So now at every point of that loop, there's an instance of the object, okay, the first one, the second one, the third one. So we are calling that instance activity. All right, and we're also trying to access the index of that particular instance. So what it means is that at some point our for loop is going to be at position 0, at some point it's going to be at position 1, at some point it's going to be at position 4, like that. Okay, so now we decided to create a child element, which is a list item inside of the list group. All right, that's what is happening on line 78. We are creating a list item inside of the list group. So now if we go back to our previous HTML file, our previous one before the last class, you can see that we ourselves were the one that manually typed all of these things. And right here we have the list item, all right, that has a class of list group item. Okay, and that is exactly what we are trying to replicate here now. We are trying to replicate the creation of a list item, giving it a class of list group item. Okay, it's still the same thing, it's just that it's coming from our JavaScript file now, which in this case is serving like a kind of backend for this in this context. All right, so we decided to create our list item. All right, and the name of this particular, we assigned it to a variable called new activity DOM. So this new activity DOM, we gave it a class name of list group item. Okay, so now that gives us a list group item for every of the object present inside this array right here of the activity list. Okay, so now let me just comment this out so that I show us how it works. Alright, so let's say new activity done. Text content is equals to, and now so this text content, let's give it to our activity and we're calling the title. So if you were to save this is what we get. All right, we are passing the activity.title to the text content of the new activity DOM. This is similar to what we have in our previous HTML file by manually typing it inside, but now it's coming from the backend. All right, so this is where we are at the moment. Okay, then another thing that we decided to do, don't worry, I'll come back to the all other things right there. Another thing that we decided to do over here is to listen to this button here. Okay, to listen to this confirm button that we have here. All right, so how did we go about that? We decided to go into our HTML file again. All right, and the button confirm, you can see it's an input with a type submit and the value of confirm. So inside of our JavaScript file, we looked for it by searching through using the query selector. So the query selector goes to the entire DOM and looks for the element that matches what was specified in the argument. So now we targeted the input tag that has a type of submit. All right, and that is what we have here. Input that has a type of submit. So now do something for us. We assigned it to a submit button, which is the variable name. Now this variable name, we added an event listener. Okay, so this event listener, okay, we told it like, okay, listen for a click event. The moment a click event occurs, do something for us. All right, which is what this function I'll be explaining now does for us. Now once it encounters that click event, do something first, which is prevent the default response, the default browser response. Just prevent it so that we can manipulate the response ourselves, like how the browser is going to respond. All right, so prevent it. Now get the value of the text input. What we mean is that get the value of what is inside. Let's say if this was to be yummy now, yummy, I will click on the confirm, get the value of yummy. And how did we do that? That was what is happening on line 118. All right. We also looked for our inside of our HTML file to look for the input tag that has the type text, which is only one at the moment. We only have two input tags, one that has submit and one that has text. So our query selector as well allows us to search that way. So the query selector works in a way such that if we are okay, let me just show you how this works. So the document dot query selector, you can pass the name of a particular tag inside and it works. All right, when you are passing the name of a tag, an HTML tag, all right, an HTML element or an HTML node, it works. However, if you want to like search using, or if you want to query rather using the ID of a particular element, you do that by specifying the hashtag first, then the name of the ID, element ID. All right, if you want to like query using the class of that particular element or group of elements, you do that by calling the dot class name. All right, so if you are searching using the tag name, you don't have to specify any of this. It works like that. If it's an ID, you must add a hash tag there, and if it's a class name, you must add the full stop before anything else. All right, so we looked for the input tag that has the type text, which is what we have here, input type text. All right, so we extracted out the value by calling this dot value. So that means we are pulling out the value of that particular input. Okay, so now we are now checking on line 120 using this if statement. If the text input is empty, if it equals to an empty string, do something for us. Call on the windows.alert events cannot be empty, and that's why inside of the browser right here now, inside of the browser right here, if I were to press confirm like this, it gives us an event, event cannot be empty alert. The same way, if we change this to event cannot be empty, just input confirm, you get the same thing. Just input right there. So what is being displayed on the screen is directly what was typed, is exactly rather what was typed inside of our JavaScript file, and that is how the manipulation is being done. So like the confirm button that we are clicking, the event listener was added in our JavaScript file, the alert, everything is right inside of our JavaScript file. Okay, so moving on, and then we said else. That means if that is not the case, then do something for us. Remember our activity list that we created right here, the activity list here. All right, we decided to push into it. Don't forget, I've taught us that before. Okay, let me create a new, okay, yeah, let's call it student. All right, student is equals to Ayo, Adi, Charles. I've taught us this before. You can watch the previous video. I just want to like say that again. So students, now this is what is in student, but student dot push, and I'm adding, let's say, Festus to it. All right, by the time I call students again, you can see Festus has been added to the list, and that is exactly what is happening here. So we called activity list, which is this particular array here, dot push to it something for us, and now in this case we are pushing an object, which is we give it the title the title of that particular object will now be the text inputs that we extracted from the HTML file of inputs that has the type text. The value that we got from there is what we are assigning as the title. Then we are setting the finished to false. Now what are we doing here? Once we've done the update of that particular array, we are now calling on our function again. Remember what the function does? Sets the cleans the inner HTML for us. It makes it empty so that we can update it. Then it creates the child element, which is the list tag, and assigns the list group item to it. All right. So now then we reset the form. At this case now, if I say go have a haircut, if I confirm, you can see that go have a haircut is being added to the list. All right. Go to see grandma. You can see it's been added to the list, but that is not where we want to end it. All right, we still want it such that we are able, we are able to remove. Once we are done, we want to be able to delete the activities inside of this HTML. Once we are done, just mark it and check it out. All right, and that is what all this other stuff does for us. Okay, so let me uncomment it so I explain it as well, line by line. Okay, so now don't get disturbed about those delete things there. They are very simple, and I will show you that it is indeed simple. All right, so now let's inspect. So I show you. So this is using this browser's element. Now if you check this through, you would see that inside of the list item here, there is a div tag, and inside of the div tag we have two things right there. We have the span and we have the button. This span is the one that contains the activity that we are doing, and we have this button, which is a delete button. Now here's the catch. The reason why we have two items right here, like I said earlier, is because we also want to be able to remove item from the activity list once it's done, right? So now we placed both of them, both the title of that particular activity and the button, together inside an element called the div, and we gave it a class attribute of activity item. Okay, what is this activity item about? This activity item is the one that allows us to properly style these activities, okay, where we have the title on the left and the delete button on the right. And how is that being achieved? We achieved that using our styles here, right here, which is the activity item, okay, that we give an attribute of display of flex and the justify content of space between. So if we were to change this, all right, or delete it, for example, and save, you can see how it looks at the moment. This is not nice, okay? And that is why we had to add our justify content of space between. So that allows us to spread it, spread it out. So now moving on back to our JavaScript file on line 82, right? So on line 82, we are creating that inner child div, and that's what we created. So we created this inner child div, all right, and we give it a class name of activity item. All right, don't forget where activity item is coming from. Activity item is the class name of that div that allows us to style these two things right there. So now then we created the title span. Okay, that title span contains the document. So that title span contains the document. The title span contains the activity title rather. The title span contains the activity title. All right, and the delete button as well is also present. Looking at our div again, let's see. You can see this div has the title span, which is this one here, and the button. So we created the span, okay, and inside of that span we gave it an activity, the activity title as we passed it as a text content. All right, and all of this that we're talking about now is inside the for loop. Do not forget that it's inside the for loop, and this activity that we're seeing here is an instance of the items right inside of the array. Okay, so now after that we decided to create the delete button for each element as well. All right, so we created our delete button, which is the document.createElements button, delete activity button, you know, class name, give it a bit. This all of these styles, yeah, you know, if we change this to success, and these styles are coming from Bootstrap. So for persons that might have to, you can see we gave it a success, and you can see what is the color is showing there, but that is not. So the red one is the one that we want to use in this case. So now danger, and the activity type, the delete activity button type, we are giving it a button just because, you know, you can set your type to submit like that, but this one we are giving it as button. So the text content is delete. All right, so if I wrote you know, something like that, you can see that, you know, that is what we are seeing inside the browser. That's not what we wanted. I'm just trying to like show you that all of these things are, you know, manipulated right from inside of the JavaScript file. All right, so this delete now, we are then passing in an onClick attribute, and this onClick attribute is just like, okay, whenever a user clicks on it, do something for us. All right, and in this case I said just give an alert, delete, okay, and it's asking delete wash the dishes. You can see delete wash the dishes. If it comes down to mow the lawn, it's saying delete mow the lawn. All right, so why or how is that happening? Because we have this delete here, all right, and we are passing in a placeholder, okay, of activity list, which is this particular array here, and you know, we are passing in the index inside. All right, and we are from there we are extracting out the title. How does that work? If we go back to our console, to the students, all right, so you can see that students, the element at position 0, you know, it gives us Ayo. Position 1 gives us Ade, and position 2 it gives us Charles. All right, so that is what is happening here. So activity list, and we are passing in that index, and where are we getting this index from? Where method, you know, allows us to extract out the index that we are currently on. So pass that index to the activity list, and then since the items in the list are not just names, strings like Ayo, Ade, Charles there, it's an object. So from that object we can extract out the title, and that's how we made this possible. So the other ones here is just to append to the previously defined element. So from the activity item div that we created here, which is the div, we appended the title span, which is this right here, as well as the button. So we appended the title span and the button to the div that we created. Then we appended this particular activity item, we appended it inside the new activity DOM that we created, the list group item, the li tag. So we appended the div inside the li tag, that's on line 104. And then on line 107, we decided to append the li tag inside of the ul tag, which is the list group itself. Okay, so that was that's all that was like the main thing that was done in the last class. So this is more like a recap, and if you're still having any challenge, feel free to like post me questions on the Slack channel. So the entire code is available on GitHub. I'll also be submitting the link on the Slack channel as well, so that you can have a full cover, or like a full copy of what we've done. So this is where I'll be ending the class, and from this end you should be able to like see the previous assignment that I've given, so that you can know what to do next from here. Alright, so you know what to do next from here. If you're still having any challenge, like I said earlier, let us know. Not just me alone, post it on the Slack channel and let us talk about it. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next.